Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about a topic that never really gets old, plugins. We all enjoy having different tools that can help us shape our mixes in different ways. Oftentimes, plugin developers try to emulate some tried and tested studio hardware like compressors and EQs and limiters. Other times they try to offer us new innovative ways that can shape our work in a way that's never been done before. Having a good combination of both can really elevate our music production process. Back in the day, finding new plugins could be quite an exciting prospect. While the mainstream of plugin manufacturers would be either Waves or Universal Audio that were the leading head of this revolution, oftentimes you could find different plugins by smaller companies that would remain studio staples for years to come. For example, the Silent One synthesizer that remained in use for many years after its release. Things are a little bit different nowadays. Many developers joined the game in the past few years, turning the plugin market into quite a saturated one, which prompted even some of the big players into taking steps we never saw before, such as offering free plugins on certain times of the year, or in the case of Universal Audio, for example, opening their DSP-only plugins for the native plugin market. So you could say there was a larger sense of scarcity in the plugin market about 10-15 years ago, and I remember the real excitement I could sense when some of the bigger companies, for example like Arturia, would release a yearly free plugin during Christmas. But the challenge we have these days is a little bit different. After collecting different tools and plugins for many years, I've noticed my library is quite cluttered with different tools I don't actually need. And at the same time, some of the best ones I actually got for free. So recently I've made this conscious decision not to get any new plugins unless they were absolutely necessary for my workflow. And for those of us who work on a thin budget, I just wanted to let you know that for every posh tool you see on the internet, there is likely to be a free version that is probably just as good. So today I want to show you some of the best plugins I got for free over the years from different manufacturers. Some of these plugins may not be free anymore, but you still may be able to get them for free when bundled with other ones, or you may be able to get them for very cheap. And the plugins are M Dynamic EQ by Melda Productions, the Softtube VCA Compressor, Verve Machines Essential by UAD, Texture by AudioThing, and the EFX Refract by Arturia. Okay, the first plugin I want to talk about is the M Dynamic EQ by Melda Productions. As you can see, it's quite a visually appealing plugin, and when you hear this drum loop that I've taken off Apple Loops, you can already tell that it's got this resonating frequency here, and when I point out the cursor it shows me it's around 75 Hz. One good way of treating this would be to load either a multi-band compressor or, in this instance, a dynamic EQ. And what I'm gonna try and do is use a low shelf and to just compress the low end in a way that will make it a bit more tight. So I'm just going to click the low band, and you can see you can play with the barrel of the EQ, how narrow or wide it's going to be on the shelf even. I'm going to use quite a narrow Q, and I think I'm going to take it up a bit. Now I can obviously exaggerate and kill all the low lows, but I don't want to really do that. I just want to keep it nice and tight. That's going to save us a lot of trouble later when going to mastering. One great feature of this plugin is that it's got great filters. Their bell goes up to 120, which is essentially almost linear phased, so this is a great feature. In this way I can definitely go ahead and filter below 26 Hz in a way that's gonna be barely noticeable. But again, this will help us a lot when compressing and adding more tracks later down the line. It will just make the overall compression of the track a bit more even. Another special feature this plugin has is the auto listen feature. When I switch it on and I just click a bandwidth, I can just drag it along and it's going to represent that plugin band. think I found some resonance in here as well. So what I'm gonna do is just use a really narrow Q and just, yeah, maybe just compress slightly on that. And you can also apply upward compression in here, like this. Adding a bit more snap. Maybe add a bit more saturation as well. It's got some nice flavor of saturation. So yeah, this is without the plugin. And this is with. So yeah, the M Dynamic EQ by Melda. A wonderful plugin. Okay, so the second in our list would be the VCA Compressor by Softube, one of my favorite developers. So the VCA Compressor is basically based on the classic DBX 160 compressor, which was renowned for its wonderful effect on drums and bass especially. It's quite a simple compressor in comparison to others. Originally it only had the compression, the ratio and the output controls, but in here Softube managed to add some more modern features like attack and release and stereo link and some punch for some added transients and sidechain filtering and so more, and as well as some other features. Let's go ahead and engage the compressor on the drum beat, and as you can see, it already gives us that classic knock effect that it used to provide. Let's go ahead and add some output drive. As you can see, the VUs become a bit red when you do that. That's a nice touch. And it's got a sidechain filter. So what it means is it's going to compress only above the frequency that we decide. So I want to retain some of the low end energy. So I'm going to start it at around 100 Hertz. Added a punch on. It's quite a nice touch. I'm going to use some makeup gain because I'm compressing quite a bit here. I'm going to exaggerate this, in fact. Compress quite a bit and then introduce some of the dry signal. This is without a plugin. And you can see how the drum loop is losing so much energy that this compressor gives it. So yeah, I mean, this is a wonderful, versatile plugin that I really recommend checking out by Softube. Check them out. Good job, guys. Okay, the third plugin I want to talk about now is the Verve Machines by UAD. This is the essential version. There's a fuller version that's got, lo and behold, more machines, but they gave this one away for free, so I just snapped it. And basically what this does is it emulates a few different tape machines. As you can see, this is probably quite a hi-fi tape, and then it probably goes down to a half-inch, quarter-inch, and something more like a boombox. This is my interpretation of it. It may be a bit different, but what's pretty cool about this is that it's super easy to use. It's got one button, a drive button, but within this drive button it hides a few cool things under the hood. So why don't we go ahead, and I've recorded some chords that I've played on Fender Rhodes, and it sounds quite nice and mellow. Let's go ahead and engage the Verve Machines, and if you can hear it, the more you push the drive, the sound gets a bit more wobbly as well, so it adds some modulation effects to it as well, which is pretty cool. Now, the effect becomes a bit more prominent as you scroll to the right, to the less hi-fi machines, which is pretty neat. Now, I personally really like this one, which is super lo-fi. It gets a bit loud, so if you can hear the sound, it is heavily modulated. And if I just engage a bit of reverb to it as well. Yeah, so this is a very simple plugin, the Verve Analog Machines by UAD, and I really recommend checking it out. Okay, the next plugin I want to talk about is Texture by Audio Thing. It's quite a simple looking plugin, but it basically combines between a really lovely sounding reverb and a granular synthesis engine. This is like a Juno type melody, which is nice and chimey, and when I engage things, I'll start with the more straightforward usage of it, which is just a reverb, and it's one of those lovely sounding plugins that don't take much to sound nice. It's got a really nice shimmer. Now when you push the mix up and when you pull the slider towards the left, the granular, you can hear how it kind of smears the sound, and instead of having the long reverb tail, it sounds like it's coming up with all those little particles, which you can enhance by pressing the diffusion button. And I think still it sounds quite nice when you combine a bit more reverb. Now this thing has a really great pitch shifter. Yeah, it can be a really creative tool actually. I really like it. Texture by Audio Things. Okay, and last but certainly not least is the beast of a plugin, which is the EFX Refraction by Arturia that they were giving away last year. This is quite a versatile plugin, so I want to show you. What it does is basically breaks your sound into up to 8 different voices, but it also applies what they call a refraction, which is basically this kind of movement that's being thrust upon a certain algorithm. So it adds a lot of cool movement to your sound in a press of a button, and I'm gonna engage it on the melodic chimey Juno part, and I'm just going. So as you can see, this is a singular voice, and when you break it down to up to 8 voices, it sounds quite nice and rich. Now this is the amount of modulations we're going to apply, and if I apply it on just a bandpass filter like this, you see you can control the resonance or the cutoff parameter of the filtering that's happening through this engine. But it's not only that, you know, it's got a ton of cool presets, and as you can see, it's got a nice harmonizer, which is this one is actually pretty cool, or you can use it to use comp filtering or bit crashing, or just a few different types of distortion. I'm just gonna go back into what you had before, which sounded nice, and I'm going to use that on our drum loop. It sounds pretty cool on drums actually. That already sounds pretty cool on drums. It creates this really cool tape drive, and I don't need that many voices on drums. I want them to stay nice and focused, but I'm going to change this. It's got a tape, a sine folder, and the germanium sounds really nice. It's like a vintage type. That's a bit too much. And that's pretty cool. So yeah, the EFX Refract by Arturia, it's a beast of a plugin, and last Christmas they gave it for free, and I'm still exploring it almost a year down the line. So yeah, great work you guys. So there you have it. 6 plugins I originally got for free and still use to this very day in late 2024. Let me know in the comment below what you thought about these plugins and if you have any other favorites. As always, feel free to share, subscribe, like, show some love, and for the rest of you, good luck and happy creating.